Okay, this is Tac Chat number 20, and I am Dan. I started doing these Tac Chats in, I think, October of 2019, so I knew something was on its way. I didn't quite know what. And here we are, 20 Tac Chats later. It's not a lot, but it's at least something. Last year, I did 4 in-person talks. One crowd was maybe 40 some odd people. The other one was about 20, and then there was a couple that were about 10 to 12. So it was interesting to get out there and talk about my book, Rise from Darkness, and to talk about what's going on in the world right now, and talk about true spirituality and higher consciousness and natural law and the things that we're going to need to rise from this darkness. But today we're going to talk about. I want to talk about death, physical death, because we're not this bag of flesh and bones, and there are some things that are, definitely things worth living for, but there's things, worse than death. We are beings of light, like they said like Yoda said in Star Wars, we're not these flesh and bones, we're luminous beings. And that's right on, actually. I'm going to talk about physical death. I'm going to talk about what I feel is the need for true anarchism in our society, and what anarchism actually really means, and what what are the requirements or the consciousness level that we need to be able to get to a state of true anarchism on a big level, not on, a small village here or a small village there, because we're not there yet. I feel like things are being forced in that direction with artificial intelligence and other things they're trying to do right now. And, technology has, is given a voice to a lot of people. It's even made some people famous that otherwise nobody would know. I'm up here talking, and maybe someone will see this, and who knows? Maybe it'll go viral, maybe it won't. But it gives everybody a voice. So, I'm not knocking technology, but keep in mind, technology's betrayed us, and it's going to continue to betray us because it's being used like any tool, and it's in the hands of evil people. So I'm going to be talking about that. I'm going to be talking about religion, and when I say religion, I'm going to use the word religion in the colloquial sense. So I'm going to just say organized religion. I'm not going to talk about the etymological meaning of religion. I've talked about that before. It's out there. People know what it means or can find out what it means. But something that I should have done on like a lot of prior podcasts, all the prior podcasts, is start this podcast out with a prayer. And you're welcome to bow your head, and I'll say this prayer. I mean, with what I've come to know and with what I've come to suspect, I should have been saying certain prayers a long time ago. And this is non-denominational. If you want to make the sign of the cross, you can. I'm wearing a Mjolnir. That's okay. Whatever your spiritual beliefs are, or religious beliefs, if you have a good spiritual practice within those. So this is just a non-denominational prayer. And I'm going to start it off. Our Father, Lord of spirits, in the sea of lights, hallowed is your creation. That kingdom come, thy will of the all be done, as above, so below. Give us this day our daily sustenance in all its forms, and forgive us for any actions not done for the highest good of all. And may we be awakened and conscious enough to rise from this darkness together and deliver ourselves from this evil. Thank you, or amen. So with that, I'm going to go into what anarchism means. Now, I gave a talk on the 18th of December at my school. There was probably only 20 people there, and Warriors of Light were there. And this is a group of all races, genders, and I dig the group. It's a group that understands that race is being used as a weapon, as a tool. They're trying to divide and conquer. and put black and white people against each other just based on the pigmentation of our skin. Okay, and this is, they understand that we need to start asking the bigger questions, like why, since time immemorial, have we always had to fight for our freedom? I'll get into that briefly today too. I'm going to talk about the stuff I talked about that day, and as far as anarchism, what is it? Before we get into anything else, what is true anarchism? I lost right-wing friends that I had for years because of my connection to anarchy or anarchism. They thought I was one of these guys running around burning police cars and, flipping cars over and destroying other people's properties, which is a transgression against natural law. And there were no anarchists involved in that. Those were mind-controlled, for the most part, people. I'd say even as far as hypnotized, fighting for their version of slavery, their version of what government they wanted in office. Socialism or capitalism, and they're both the same thing, really, honestly. And in a real true anarchist society, either one would actually work. They both would work at the same time together. But I digress. And then I lost left-wing friends because they thought that I was they thought that since I knew that this uh, worldly pandemic isn't what they're making it out to be, and I was very, very, well, I'll just go ahead and get right to it. It's a scamdemic. We know this. So because I knew this, they automatically, now these are far left-wing people, and they're still not going to ever admit they were wrong. The ego is hardened into this. They've ego identified with this identity politic, not realizing they're following it like a religion. And I lost a lot of those friends because I was obviously a Trumper since I knew that this was bullshit. So again, instead of looking at the bigger picture, understanding that it is possible that on a worldwide level, if they were going to try to kick in a New World Order, and I'm not against the New World Order, I'm against the New World Government. Okay, the way things were working in the world before, that's not higher consciousness. So maybe a New World Order is in order, but not a New World Government. Okay, galvanized under a military-industrial complex with a fake alien invasion. Anything that the mainstream news media is, talking about, uh, grooming us, just like a pedophile grooms a child. Anything they're grooming us for is something to pay attention to. Now, why all the disclosure after years and years of lies about, aliens? Okay, or like I like to call them just extraterrestrial people, because I believe the vast majority of extraterrestrials are higher conscious, loving beings that mean us well. Okay, throughout history, might be what some people refer to the angels as. Okay, I'm not going to get into all that stuff there's so much we can talk about, but these left-wing people think that I'm a Trumper, and nothing could be further from the truth. I think Trump and Biden, they rolled out what's known in military. I was in the military. They rolled out what's called rapid dominance, one thing after another. Okay, along with Project Mockingbird, the new normal. All that got rolled out quick. Billions of dollars was spent on it. Rapid dominance. And what's going to probably happen coming up, in the next year or so, is there's going to be more things that are going to happen in rapid succession. When one part is done, the next part immediately is kicked in. So anyway, what is anarchism? The word anarchy comes from the word an is the Greek prefix, and I got to thank, I learned this from What on Earth is Happening, and I did a lot of research with on What on Earth is Happening, and all the research that Mark Passio gives you to do. He gives all his resources. You should cite your sources. And I did a lot of research, and I started researching in 2019, and I've continued to research. I'll go as far as saying enlightenment is a never-ending process. Enlightenment isn't merely the presence of knowledge, but the absence of bullshit. So I'll go ahead and plug his site. We shook hands one time, but I've plugged his site at every talk that I've been to, and I'll continue to do so. And really, I was going to make a website like what the fuck is happening, but I didn't want to do that because that'd be copying off the guy too much, right? But what on earth is happening is real easy to remember, and people are going there. People that otherwise wouldn't have any access or even know who he is, even though he's very well known in a certain subculture. Widely, he's not, and no one knows who the fuck I am. I'm just out here talking, right? So, at any rate, the prefix "an," it's a Greek prefix "an," means without. An archon, think of the Greek archons, rulers. So all anarchy really means is without a ruler, just like mono means one. Monarchy is one ruler. Okay? Think about what they did. They had a monarchy over in London, England, right? Over in Europe, there was a monarch. Well, even the monarch understood back then that, hey, I don't want to have full responsibility for when things go bad, so we're going to have lords and earls and stuff, right? And even Rome had governors, so people can point the finger, and it's just compartmentalization. So they can blame each other. Meanwhile, they do what it is they want to do anyway. Okay, nothing's changed. Again, we have to ask the bigger question, and that is, why has our fight for freedom been something that is part of the human condition throughout time immortal, along with, what I would call internalized and often weaponized toxic shame? Those are the human conditions. Human nature is neutral. We're born blank. Period. We're programmable. And I think, just like with epigenetic, like if you throw a chicken that knows its job is to be food down on a block, it just gets real still. It just goes to the gallows easily because it has been, through genetics, programmed. Well, why does humanity seem to do the same thing? Okay, there's a book called Slave Species of the Gods by Michael Tillinger. It explains how we were actually created by the Anunnaki as a slave species. Read the book. It'll bring you closer to God with a capital G. Read the book. It's a easy to find book. There's a lot of books I'm going to talk about that could be read. We still got a little bit of time with the supernatural things that I've seen happen in my life that I talk about in my book, Rise from Darkness. I'm not trying to even plug it. I've given more books away for free than I can count. But I talk about some of the supernatural things that I now call simply natural, or things I'm still don't understand yet. But I will. I'll find out what I don't know. But anyway, anarchy means without a ruler. It's all it means. So what would it take to have true anarchy? It's not chaos and burning things. Anarchists live according to natural law to the best of their ability, which means we believe in not transgression and not transgressing against natural law. Don't murder, don't assault, don't steal. All these simple things, okay? And like I've heard it put before by Mark, it all boils down to don't steal. Don't steal. Don't trespass, don't rape, don't coerce, don't lie. And no one's perfect. I put my imperfections out there because, well, why not? I'm not perfect. I'm not trying to be perfect. But put your imperfections out there, then deal with them and get better at them. Very human. Most of the problems I've had have been very human problems, man. And that's part of where toxic shame can be weaponized, internalized, is when you try to be more than human, or you think so lowly of yourself that you think you're less than human, that's where shame can become toxic and it can be weaponized against you. Okay? I talk about in the book what gaslighting is, what propaganda is, everything that I've seen, all my experiences as a guy who spent over 20 years in law enforcement, as a guy who was Marine Corps infantry, stationed at the U.S. Naval Academy, security for the ECAC towers, which was a central communication hub for the entire Atlantic Fleet, also security for the Naval Research Center. I worked at NASA. There's a lot of shit that I haven't even talked about. But anyway, what would be required in consciousness for us to have on a large level a society with true anarchism? Which again, we believe in the non-aggression principle. not to aggress upon another, not to violate someone else's right to be unaccosted. No human being is born with any more rights than any other human being. And, there's a lot of companies out there that make things, and I was joking around, but I don't think I'm joking. I think I'm going to do it. It won't cost me much money. I want to have some special toilet paper made that actually says "We the People" on it, because as far as I'm concerned, we could all wipe our asses with the Constitution. That might piss some people off, but why do I need to have, again, let's ask the bigger question, why did we need to have our rights scribbled down on a parchment or piece of paper by man, codified by man, what your rights are, when our rights are our birthrights under God with a capital G, the Father in the Sea of Lights, source consciousness, whatever you want to call it. I'm non-denominational, but I do all this in the spirit of what's known as Christ consciousness. I could talk a lot about Jesus. I'm not worried about memorizing scripture. Biblical scholars have memorized scripture and cherry-picked whatever scripture they wanted to make the point to be right. The arguments turn into about who's right instead of actual discernment. I'm going to talk about discernment today. I hope I don't get too wordy, but anyway. One of the things that would be required is we would have to do away with the idea of organized religion. And this is going to be a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow. Because and they're trying to do it in a bad way, because they're going to take the religions. These religions have good spiritual practices within them for the people who follow those good spiritual practices. Okay, they follow natural law. The Ten Commandments is natural law. Let me get rid of this. I apologize for this. I should have put this on Don't Disturb. There we go. So they want to get rid of. When I say they, I mean communists. Okay, in northern China, they were slaughtering. They're taking Muslims, followers of Islam, just merely for being followers of Islam, and they're taking them in droves up there and slaughtering them in camps. Stuff that they're not reporting on the mainstream news media. They've done it to Christians. How many over the last 2022 years have the Abrahamic religions killed one another? Just to prove what's right, who's right after we die, So I'm not saying anything that anyone doesn't know. Jesus was a highly awakened man, and many people in historical records think he didn't die until he was like in his 60s, traveling to or from Rome. The Jewish Essenes took him down from the cross, and there's some books, I should have wrote those books down, but he was just, let's put it this way, whether you believe in the allegory of Jesus or the historical being, he was crucified, and it was on Passover, and you couldn't have people in crucifixion. It was law during Passover, so they had to be taken down. And he was taken down by Jewish healers that were like gypsies. And that's from a book that I read. And I wasn't there, I don't know. But what I do know is Jesus had serious problems with the religions and the religious leaders and bankers of his time. And he called bullshit on them. And he was chasing people around with switches and flipping over tables, and he was angry. He called them out, and they murdered him for it, or tried to. Again, I wasn't there. So someone asks me questions. If I know the answers to them, I will tell you. If I think I know the answer through intuition and research, I will tell you. If I don't know, I'm going to say, hey, I don't know, but I'm going to find out. Because I'm going to always... Enlightenment never ends. If on the road to enlightenment, you find the Buddha, kill it because it's your ego. So one of the things we have to do is do away with organized religion. There's too many contradictions in religion, first off. And it's the contradictions within religion that allow us to accept all these ridiculous contradictions going on in the news right now. So many things that we'll just go ahead and table this for now, table that for now. I probably should have had my thoughts a little bit written out better, but I don't want to get into tit for tat on the big scheme of what's going on. We know that this is a psyop. I don't need to sit there and say, hey, flu numbers have gone way down. I'm not going to get into all that because these are all things we're going to just table for right now. They're contradictions. The left doesn't give a shit about that. They're politically status minded. They've been socially engineered just like the rest of us have been at one point or another to be like that. And, we got to help to, maybe wake them up and get them to realize that, hey, it's okay to admit being wrong. The people that fooled you are really good at doing that. That's their job. But anyway, so the left doesn't really believe in religion anyway. Most of them are born again pagans or neo-pagans, and they don't really care about the Abrahamic religions, although they follow their politics like it's a religion. They don't understand that that's money and politics are their religion. We would have to do away with the thought process of the contradictions within religion. Religion was created as a control mechanism so they can control society with. It was created to feed in action. Okay? I believe that's the main thing it was created to do, is feed in action. Because if I pray for God to forgive me for my sins, then I can just go ahead and keep, doing things wrong. And sin means miss the mark. It isn't. There's no deadly sins. Sin was Greek for miss the mark. It had something to do with archery. You didn't quite hit the mark. Okay, so there's no deadly sins, man. Those right there are contradictions. Deadly sins: sloth, gluttony. There's 7 of them. 7 is a sacred number. There's a slot, 7 days in the week, 7 transgressions against natural law, 7 deadly sins, 7 of a lot of things, okay? Pride before the fall. I'm not going to name off all 7 of the deadly sins. I could if I sat here and thought about it. But how are any of those deadly when you're not bringing harm to another being? They're not. They're not deadly. They're warnings against excess, lust, okay? It's a warning against excess. It's a warning about moderation. But how are they deadly sins? The only deadly sins because the people that told you that are seeking to control you. Okay? Without any lust, how do we propagate our species? Without gluttony is the extreme of eating, but we still need to eat. Sloth is the extreme of resting, but we still need to rest. There are warnings against too much. Okay, moderation is key. Human ego, which is edging goodness out or edging God out, is what that means, lets us believe these contradictions. And once we've bought into them, we won't, the ego will keep us from admitting, hey, we were fucking bamboozled. We were fooled. I had to admit that. I had to admit I was wrong and bamboozled. I was wrong about my own stuff. And I talk about it in the book. But I think religion would have to go away, and we would have to have a spiritual understanding that there is a God, and live more in alignment with Christ consciousness and higher consciousness than trying to form a religion out of from somebody. And this is speaking to just my Christian friends who, again, you don't have to outright accept what I'm saying. I'm just asking you not to outright reject it. Do some research. Really, really do some research. I can't say 100% for sure that Jesus wasn't, because I was socially engineered and brought up to believe in Jesus, and I still do believe a lot in Jesus, just not in the sense that that was God coming down to earth. And that could create some problems with some people. There is a God. But is Jesus his prophet? Is Muhammad his prophet? Or were all of them God's prophets because they were let in on something, because there's something in their genome turned on? They've got special abilities, just like psychics do today. I've been around some pretty powerful psychics, which in itself leads me to believe in a higher power and an afterlife. Our souls do go on, okay? When I died, or near-death experience, and I was in the hospital, my breath was giving out, and I've talked about this before, I could see just underneath my skin my aura, and it was bright. It was just this bright light, and I was real weak. And I was coming in and out of, consciousness, and I was having regrets and thoughts like I really regretted my ego. I had all these different regrets. Wasn't afraid of dying. I had to accept it. So and this was the second time. I actually died when I was 6. And I talk about these near-death experiences in my book, real in depth, actually. But the main thing I felt was regret over not having done things, which is why I'm doing this now. I don't want to have no regrets, because regrets is what you have on your deathbed. You don't regret things you did. Even if you did bad things, you could atone for those, but you end up regretting what you didn't do. So I had regrets. I was like, wow. And I regretted not loving more. I regretted not loving more. And I was telling this to a young conscious man, and he asked me, did I ever regret love? And I told him, no, I regretted not loving more. But then there was a voice that kept coming in. It kept saying, only love and discernment can drive out hate and fear. This was not me talking. This was something else that was coming to me. I was coming in out of conscious, having my own thoughts. Light underneath the skin. We are beings of light. The aura wasn't above the skin like some people can read the aura. The aura was actually below my skin. My eyes were closed and I seen it. Sounds crazy. If I lose you, I lose you. Hey, so long. Thanks for listening for this long. That's cool. But keep in mind, if you believe in the bearded guy in the sky, anything should be possible to listen to. So we would have to do away with religion in the way we think about it, and we would have to think more in terms of spirituality, and remember that no human being has more rights than another. Would there be leaders in an anarchist society? Yes. There'd be leaders in certain areas of expertise, because not everyone's equal in all things. But they wouldn't be rulers. And in an anarchist society, if they started feeling like they were a ruler, other people would check them. And being in a higher conscious society, they'd be like, oh, yeah, you know what? You're right. It wouldn't take them real long to admit that, whoa, I was getting a little bit out of hand. All right, man, that's cool. I feel you on that. So it is possible. But the long-term solution to this is, I really believe in Mark's message, is living according to natural law, which is karmic law. Believe me, I've played with it. It exists. It's science. In 2018, I wrote the first paragraph to Rise from Darkness, and I set off to find the connection between religion and science, not understanding what either one of them really was. Science isn't what they're trying to tell you on TV. Follow the science, follow the science. Science is a process. It's a word. It's just a word. Science is a word, and it means knowledge. In Latin, it means knowledge. This is where the original word comes from. And all it is a word that describes a process by which we go about trying to find out the truth inherent in nature. That's it. Science equals process. Nature equals truth. And when you can't, have peer-reviewed or any type of differing view on a piece of information, and it's getting shut off, and very credible doctors, just on the Joe Rogan show, Dr. My goodness, what was his name? I'm going to probably do an amendum to this so I can get his name, unless I can find him real quick. Let me see here. I'm going to just look it up. I should have it set up to where you guys can see my screen too, but I don't. Actually, I should probably keep my Facebook page up, because I write better than I talk sometimes, and I do write some crazy stuff on Facebook that would actually help me do podcasts better. I should just start doing Facebook podcasts. Let's see. It was just a few days ago that I posted it. This doctor was deplatformed. By the way, I was deplatformed too. I had 3,000 followers on Facebook. They deplatformed me. I know that's a drop in the bucket, but they're deplatforming anybody. This doctor was deplatformed from Twitter, from every social media. This is a doctor with a lot of connections to the government, friends in the CIA, knows Dr. Fauci real well. Uh, and they still deplatform him. So this guy's got the credentials, and he's telling the truth. It was a 3-hour and 6-minute podcast. I listened to the whole thing. Worth listening to. I think Joe Rogan's doing an excellent job. Yes, Dr. Robert Malone. How could I forget it? Dr. Robert Malone. Uh, check out Dr. Robert Malone. Just Google him. Go to Joe Rogan's podcast. Listen to that 3-hour and 6-minute podcast. He spells out pretty good what's going on in the world right now, and what could be going on in the world right now. So that's one of the things that would be required for anarchism is a rising consciousness to the point where we're not fighting and killing each other over religions, where we live in accordance to natural law, karmic law, and I've had some warning shots. That karma's there, man. It's there. So people know what karma is. I'm a yoga instructor. I know a lot of yoga people. I can get into that too real quick. I'll just talk about the dark side of yoga. The dark side of yoga, they want you to do nothing. Just like religion wants to have you do nothing. Religion wants you to believe that if you follow Jesus and you follow God and you follow the Bible, there's a better afterlife. There's something better after than here. Let's look forward to that because we can't do shit about anything here. That's bullshit. That's just to fool you into inaction, man. How is that spiritual? How is it spiritual? You put your mind on, they say what you put your mind on manifests. Well, I'm putting my mind on freedom. So I want to manifest freedom. So I'm going to be going directly against the things that are against freedom. So I want to manifest freedom. I don't want to manifest ignorance. Okay. So I don't want to ignore the evil that's going on in the world. And something's been trying to wake up humanity since 2017, especially. 2015 is when I started having an awakening, but I'm pretty stubborn. It took some time. I would call my awakening, and it might be the name of my next book. I don't know. I might call my awakening or my next book The Unconscious Awakening. I didn't ask for it. It just happened. I didn't ask for any of this shit. I'm blessed. I am truly blessed. If I had my choice, I would do jujitsu, work out, and read the rest of my retirement, the rest of my life. I wouldn't be doing anything with any of this. I wouldn't be speaking out. But the spiritual awakening I had, and God with the capital G's, put me in a position to where I can, and I'm going to. I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to be as consistent as some people would probably like because there's a lot of things going on in the world. This is my 20th podcast in just slightly over 2 years. So it's less than one a month. I get it. I'm not doing as much as I could be, but I'm doing a lot behind the scenes. I gave 4 talks this past year in person, and honestly, I'll just keep going. There's things that I know that I think can help. I don't think this higher benevolent creative force would be trying to wake me up with animal totems, spirit guides, and the different things that can only exist through something higher than man. There's a good force on our side. You can believe that. That's the only message of hope I have. And it's legit. Because there's a lot of stuff coming down the pike, man. They've spent billions of dollars on this bullshit. We have to start saying no. We have to stop acquiescing. Like David Icke says, quit acquiescing. We are the many. They are the few. Okay? In other words, fuck them. We have to just start saying no. And we have to talk to as many people as we can. And if I even get one person to do a little bit of research because of this podcast, or one person says, he might be onto something. Okay? Not religious because I'm not afraid to go to hell. Hell doesn't exist. I'm spiritual because I've already been in hell. I worked in a prison for 5 years and I was an order follower for another 20 in a different avocation. I've already been in hell. I can tell whole stories about that. You know, I've done talks. I've testified in court. I've done talks at colleges, new student and parent orientation, 400 people. You know, and I've had to do presentations in front of doctors and lawyers, and I've had to talk to inmates. So my presentation styles definitely can differ, but you get rusty. I got rusty. There's a long time I wasn't publicly speaking, but now I've been teaching martial arts again. I'm publicly speaking. Even if it's only to a room of 10, 12 people, it's still public speaking. So it's starting to come along. I'm starting to get better at looking at this little dot. My technological abilities will improve over time. But, you know, I got to admit, man, I was a little bit, I can only imagine how some of you guys out there who've been doing this for 10, 15 years or longer, how you guys could feel knowing what you know. And I've only been awakened really since like 2017 and actively doing stuff since like 2019. I can only imagine how you guys feel. My heartfelt thank you goes out to all of you. And you all know who you are. I'm not going to name everybody off, but it was like, why should I even? I'm being deplatformed. I only got 3,000 followers and I'm getting deplatformed and shadow banned. What good is my podcast going to do? Maybe one person will hear it. You know, maybe one person will hear it and they'll turn towards spirituality and God with a capital G, and they'll do some research. I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to argue scripture with anybody. I'm not going to go tit for tat with memorization on scripture. There's theologians and scholars who have argued over scripture for hundreds of years. You know, people also ask me, because I talk about a lot of different psychological aspects of everything that's going on in the world and with what happened in my own life. And they'll ask, you know, where'd you get your psychology degree, Dan? You know, where's your theology degree, Dan? And I would say to them that I did it a little bit differently. I did 20 some odd years of clinicals. Then I wrote 257,000 word books. Those would be my dissertations. And then I decided to become self-educated, sort of like a blue collar scholar, I guess. Thank you, Crew, if you see this, because I got that from Crew Juice. A blue collar scholar, which means how do people get degrees? They attend lectures. They go do online classes and training. That's what I've done. Okay. As soon as I realized, hey, there's a lot of information you could find on the internet. It's not just for porn. Maybe I'll start looking at some other stuff. Oh, there's books. Hey, start reading. Start attending real live lectures, real live conferences. You start learning. Then I would just end that with, hey, every single politician in Washington, D.C. has a college degree. How's that working out for us so far? Maybe we need a little more holistic intelligence, a little more streetwise intelligence or streetwise spirituality, which is another great presentation that Mark Passio did that was great. I've watched it several times. There's so many content creators out there that are doing good work. But as far as what's going on in the world right now with the satanic cabal of the world, I don't know everything. But people are lazy inherently, and I know not everyone's lazy, but if I was rich, I'd be on a beach, you know, with chicks sipping, you know, margaritas or whatever it is rich people do. I guess they go to pedophile islands, okay? I wouldn't be doing that shit, but I wouldn't be trying to rule the world either. That's why I think there's an bad extraterrestrial element involved. This is just a theory. But like I said earlier in this talk, I think most extraterrestrials are higher consciousness in love, and they're in a space of love. And we need to. Dr. Greer's does a CE5 protocol. I follow his work. It is to make contact with CE5, close encounters of the fifth kind. It's initiated contact by humans through meditation, through love consciousness, and there's lots of recorded instances in which it has occurred. They've come. So I would check into his work also, because he's blowing the lid on all this stuff too. They're going to have a fake alien invasion, not extraterrestrial people, and it's going to help galvanize a military industrial complex around a new world order, but it's a new world government is what it's going to be, with a ruling class, an enforcement class, and the rest of us are slaves. Basically, the enforcement class is slaves too. Make the slaves police each other. That's what this all really fucking boils down to be honest with you. And I probably have gone on a long time with what I really wanted to talk about today. Um, I guess my main message for today is start saying no. Start training. Try not to get hurt, but train. Be ready. Have food. Have 5 months worth of food. Have batteries. Have generators. Have bug out locations. Start spreading the word. Start getting other people to get involved. Okay. Like I said on one of my posts on Facebook, the feminazis are evil. These are suburban chicks that are feminizing their men, and they're making their men into fake, soft, woke men. Not understanding that when the wolves are at the gate, those men are going to be very toxically masculine, really toxically masculine, and they don't understand they're hurting themselves. Okay, real men get angry sometimes, not over frivolous bullshit, but we do get angry. I could get into some Shrek stuff. You know, people are like onions. We have layers. All that other shit. But these feminazis come from the suburbs and probably never even seen a real black person in real life until they were adults. And all they're screaming and everything they're doing is actually aiding in the murder of people of color, because I really think these vaccines are going to hurt people of color more than they're going to hurt people of, Northern European descent. Bill Gates' vaccines did that in India. They've done it in Africa. So that's my puppy barking. So I believe they don't realize that they're actually aiding in the biggest bait and switch in human history. But I come from the hood, and I got a lot of friends of color. They ain't taking these shots, man. They can go ahead and use that old psychological trick of lack and put it on mainstream news that, there aren't enough vaccines, and that there's been some complaints that minorities haven't been able to get vaccines, but they're going out to all the white people in the suburbs and blah 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 blah. That's bullshit. They're trying to use the theory of lack to get you to run for it. Go get it. And all my friends are like, no, ain't happening. We ain't stupid. We're not getting it. Okay. All these nurses get fired or quit because they're not getting it, because they're not seeing what the mainstream news media is saying that's happening. And I worked in hospitals, and this is the last thing I'll say as far as what's going on. They do get money for all these. They get incentives for COVID deaths. They get incentives for COVID everything, okay? And I watch that happen with other things in hospitals. And doctors are the biggest order followers around sometimes. They take an oath not to, if they can't help you, to at least do no harm. They're doing harm now. Worse than any order follower in history. So I definitely want to stay out of hospitals, because I'll go in there with an orthopedic problem, come out with COVID, or not come out and die of COVID. I am what has been referred to now, and I like to say, not a conspiracy theorist, I'm a conspiracy analyst. I'm analyzing these things that are going on, and this is actually a conspiracy that's going on in the world. And there is a pandemic. It's just not the kind of pandemic they're trying to tell us that there is. Anyway, I hope this podcast finds everybody well. I don't know how long I've even talked, or if I've got my main point across, but the main point across is higher consciousness through natural law. Get away from organized religion. Get away from the religion of politics. Get away from the religion of money, the religion of greed. Okay? Greed, another 7 deadly sin. That's wanting more than what you need. It's a warning against excess. That's what that is. We have to do away with contradictions and control mechanisms. Organized religion, including government, is one of them. Living according to natural law and understanding that all humans have rights that are equal. Nobody is superior to anybody. Our rights are our birthrights. At birth, we are free. Ask the bigger questions. Why throughout all human history again, I'll repeat it, why throughout all human history has there been a repeating, I'm talking 400,000 years. I'm not talking about just the last couple hundred in this country. I get it. Slavery in this country is extra abhorrent because this country was supposedly founded on freedom, yet we had slaves. But race didn't get invented until like the late 1800s. Prior to that, throughout human history, it was just normal to have slaves of all races. No one cared. Okay? They're using a dialectic to try to get us to fight each other over color. Where if you really look at the bigger picture, and this is not to minimize any people of color's problems that they've had in this country or that they face. Because of social engineering, they do indeed face things. I think we're all facing something right now. We are facing a bigger enemy at the gate, and we need to come together as far as that's concerned. As far as the race issue in this country is concerned, there's a larger enemy at the gate coming for all of us, and they're coming for our kids. So we need to really unite under that banner first off, but ask the bigger question: why has slavery been one of these things that we've had to deal with since time immemorial, since the beginning of recorded history, pre-history? Because humans were created as slaves. You have to do some research to realize that. That's hard for people to understand. If you look at all the different kinds of hominids throughout history, there's different types of hominids. You throw DNA into all the, alien or extraterrestrial DNA into all those hominids, and you've got different looking people, right? You gotta admit, we all look different. Africans, North Americans, Asian Pacific, whatever, Europeans, we all look different. We were different hominids. We all had alien DNA put into us, extraterrestrial DNA put into us, and we were created in their image. Back then, to the men back then, they were gods. Read the book, Slave Species of Gods by Michael Tillinger. Michael Tillinger wrote that book. He expands on Zachariah Sitchin's and Eric Van Daniken's work on astronaut theory. Read it. It's a serious wake up. It really is. And they write the book. It's a little bit clinical, but they write it in a way where it's not so clinical you can't understand it. You definitely don't need to argue about everything in the book like you do in the Bible. There are some theories in the book, but there's no contradictions. Okay, unlike other things that we have written down. But anyway, 2022 is going to be a good year to a degree. It's got 3 2s in it. That's a sacred number, man. There's some things coming up, but I think we've got some good things on our side that just isn't known yet, based on some of the supernatural things I've seen. But be prepared for things. They start talking about asteroids and stuff. I start thinking, you're worried that an asteroid may hit something. So you should be prepared. There's another book that I'm currently reading called Lucifer's Hammer. And Lucifer's Hammer actually spells out what you would do in a doomsday scenario if you're, one of the surviving people after a big asteroid hit or something. Some type of extinction level type of almost event. It's got some good information on how to maybe survive that. But anyway, I think I'll leave it at that, man. God with a capital G, bless everybody. Have a great weekend. And I don't know when the next one I'm going to do, but I will be doing more live talks this year. And I'm just going to keep pecking away at it, man. Peace out.